Better, that's better. Appreciate all of you being here. We will turn it over now into the capable hands of our city clerk.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, June the 23rd. We have approval of minutes from June 16th.
Great job, great job. Keep up the good work.
Appeals, we have requests for waiver of the noise ordinance on July the 3rd from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. on Moffett Road. And we have July the 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. In Langen Park and Bienville Square. He is going to be present today.
Great.
To address the council, okay. Request for waiver of the noise ordinance on July the 4th from 3 p.m. until 10 p.m. on MacArthur Street. And June 27th from 2:30 to 9:30 on River Forest Road. And July 4th from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. In Cathedral Square, and she did get her permit from the Parks Department.
I got contacted, and I think it went to the city clerk for a noise waiver. Came in yesterday. It's for today. Mr. Moore and his group. He wants to be out from 3 until 7. He is coming down to address us. I guess he'll bring this up because he's asking us to waive the noise. They're going to be in front of the base of the Admiral Sims statue. And again, it's from 3 to 7. Protest, social gathering. And so do we want to add this? When he contacted me over the weekend, I explained that there is a form and that you have to give mostly notice 2 weeks in advance of your date for everyone to do the proper paperwork. But I know we've added in the past, so it's just your call.
Who is the gentleman again?
His name is Antonio Moore. He signed in to address us today. He's spoken to us in the past.
Okay, I know exactly who you're referencing now. And so he wants to have a protest where now?
At the base of the site of the Raphael Sims statue.
Do you have any other information relative to what he wants?
Well, he filled out the paperwork, and he sent it yesterday.
Right,
You know,
but I don't
the
have-
paperwork for a noise waiver.
Do you have a copy of that, Madam City?
It came to,
Yeah.
it's,
I don't have nothing against you.
Well, we'll hear from him at 10:30. And if he can, if it's his intention to have a peaceful protest, I'm not necessarily against it, but I'm interested to know, right now I don't have anything other than just
his form.
Right.
Your call.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, he. Why,
Well,
we
the
would
one
have
at
to waive our own
Cathedral
rules.
Square
Right.
did on that
That's the
Sunday.
point.
It's up to you. I'm just saying. It came, he's going to address us. He's probably going to bring it up.
Yeah, yes.
Filed the noise waiver
Mr. President.
yesterday. I got it yesterday. I'm
Mr. President.
assuming.
Yes, sir.
And apparently, they were there last week, and the police shut them down because they didn't have a noise waiver. They went out last week. I don't know all the details on that.
Mr. President.
And I don't know if they need a police permit because it's in a median. It's not, I don't know. And I explained that to him but we only emailed each other. And then I got this. He contacted me on Saturday or Sunday, I forget which day.
Mr. Richards?
Yes. Mr. President, I watched the video on Facebook of that peaceful protest last week at that same spot. They were not in the street. They were all off the street up there in the area of the statue. I guess it was about 40 of them up there. And they had a little but the bullhorn, a little bullhorn up there. And they were saying Black Lives Matter, this, that, and they were chanting their regular little chance. Police drove up. About 4 of them drove up. And he told them they had to put the bullhorn down. So they said, what's the problem? I said, I can hear you and I'm more than 25 feet. That if I can hear you more than 25 feet, you're illegal. So they cited the residential noise ordinance, that we are less than 75 decibels. Said, this ordinance says you can't, if I can hear you from 25 feet from where you're making your noise, I can whisper, you're about 25 feet from me, good morning. That's illegal, if you can hear it. So they said, well, if we illegal, you are too, because you don't have on no body camera. So I don't have to wear a body camera. I'm a sergeant. People, sergeant and above don't wear body cameras. So they got into a debate with him saying you should be policing the street with your gun and all of that out here, and you don't have a body camera on. But anyway, after the debate over body camera and all of that, the sergeant and all, they pulled away and moved back from there. So I got the ordinance out, and I'm going to make a recommendation to the council. When they started the boom boxes, I sponsored an ordinance that says that if we can hear your music inside of your car more than 25 feet from the car is illegal. We was aiming at boom boxes, but the first part of it did say that if we can hear, if you're generating a sound and we can hear 25 feet from the source, that's illegal too. And I'm going to amend that. I plan to amend the ordinance to say if it's a peaceful protest, they are exempted. We got a number of exemptions in there, the people that we are exempted. I think a peaceful protest ought to be exempted. And I'm going to put that in the ordinance and bring it before the council, for the council to consider exempting that part, and that if you're more than 25 feet, you can be fined. I think we need to exempt a peaceful protest.
That's not what we're
I,
talking about right now.
Yes, it is. It is what we're talking about.
If the gentleman, if you all could get me a copy of his request between now and 10:30, I'm inclined to move forward in support, as long as they're going to follow all of the parameters that are already set forth. I don't have an issue. I just want to be able to see whatever paperwork it is that's been submitted.
It's our ordinance. It's our noise waiver paperwork.
Right.
Yes.
He submitted something, right?
Yes, he went online because I told him where the form was.
Right.
And then,
And what I want to see is what he submitted.
right.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just read it, but okay, I get it. That's fine. And he
Okay.
will be down here.
That'll be fine.
But we will have to, if we're going to take it up today, we'll have to add it to the agenda.
And I don't
That's
have a
your
problem
call.
with that.
And like I said, it's on a median, so I didn't know whether that's a police permit too. Honest to goodness, I didn't know what to tell him.
One thing, I'll join the president, needing one other to add.
Well, I'm fine with it.
I would add, join, put my name down there.
That's great. Thank you, Madam City Clerk.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Joe Ringhofer regarding Raphael Sims statue. Antonio Moore
That's the gentleman.
is speaking regarding city ordinance to require Mobile Police on patrol to wear body cameras. Ordinances held over, 02015, ordinance eliminating and replacing the word race on City of Mobile official forms and documents.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gregory?
we held a committee meeting last week and examined a number of forms and documents that the city uses and heard from staff people about why they collect information the way they do. And we are currently working on some new language for this. Mr. Arledge has been involved, as well as Jamie Roberts and others in the administration, and looks like we will be able to come up with some draft language that hopefully everyone can agree to. I think Fred probably wants to speak to it a little bit, but
Yes.
Chris has sent around the changes to all of us. I think, Chris, did you send it to everybody? Yes, as well as Mr. Woods and others, so that they can see what it is we're looking at before we go forward.
Mr. President.
Ms. Richardson?
Thank you. And thank you, Madam Chairman. I talked to Chris just a few moments ago, and he believes he has the answer and he can have it ready by 10:30. Chris, can you discuss what you can do by 10:30?
We can take the old one and add these changes and have a new version that can be circulated, and if you want to vote to amend and then vote on the actual thing, that could be done. I don't know what the administration has to say. I sent it to them, but I don't know if they fully digested it or not.
Can you discuss what you proposing that we amend?
It just added an exception, basically for any state or federal form requirements, so that those aren't going to be subject to change.
Right.
That's everything.
It's tied to some important things, funding most importantly. And, the other main change was, the word documents. It previously said documents and forms. I took out the word documents because that could just be a lot of stuff. And then it would be applied going forward. So if you've got a stack of forms that you already paid for, you wouldn't need to change that, just when you buy new. Those are the changes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Ms. Rich?
As a committee member, did we find any form that wasn't a requirement from another agency, or that the city has to report? It might be a city form, but then it's reported to the federal or state. Did we find any forms?
No, the only thing that came up was from the courts. Remember, Judge Thomas was here, and he said they had some internal forms that they use that didn't have to have
But
race
they
on it.
didn't present them to the committee?
No, we did not see it. We haven't gotten the information back from Judge Whidden on the questionnaire, no.
Should we wait until we see those forms?
Well,
No, he
probably
said
what
didn't have
Chris
nothing
is,
to do.
probably what Chris is suggesting would cover that. That's why we wanted to send it to the administration so they could look at it and make sure.
It doesn't do anything. I mean, seriously.
Well, it just says unless, there's an exemption for federal and state, which we already know
Right.
from the meeting last week. But if they are not federal and state requirements involved in collecting information the way we collect it, then they could be changed. So he's only exempting those that cannot.
I get that. Okay, so we don't need to see the court documents that would just say that if the courts believe they can be changed, we're okay with it?
It possibly
Yeah.
could be covered under that. I know Chris and Ricardo, that's something that you all would need to look at. I mean, this draft has just gone out to everybody, so it's a first see and read, and Mr. Roberts is here. I spoke with him yesterday, and I believe Mr. Richardson did as well.
Yeah, the language, I think we're okay with general language. We have a companion item, though, we're prepping also, so we'll need a 3-week delay if we can.
Can't hear you, Jamie.
So there's a companion item that goes along with this that we'll need probably a 3-week delay so we can get those packages together on the same agenda.
Okay, so even with the language that Mr. Arledge has sent around, you would prefer to put it with the companion
Yeah,
and hold it over?
they're related items.
They are related
Very much,
items?
Yes.
The council needs to know then what that is as well.
You wanna talk about
So
it?
we should lay this over?
We don't know. He's going to. I want my turn to say that it's worthy to be laid over. Are you aware of what Jamie's talking about?
I heard about it about 5 minutes ago.
We got
but I haven't
nervous.
seen what it is.
Just like they heard about
Oh, no, they didn't either, because he said he sent it to them. Chris said he sent it to them, not no 5 minutes ago.
That's when I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Chris
what
Chris
we-
just sent it. Yeah, Chris just sent it, yes.
I hope I got it before the administration.
So for thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for clarity, it was probably more like 10 minutes ago. But Mr. Arledge and I can sit down. We will need, because we just got this, if we can sit down and talk about the companion item, 3 weeks would be more than sufficient time for us to look at this and talk about it and work out the kinks. To make sure that we aren't doing something we can't undo, but also to make sure there's parallel traction between the two. And so Mr. Arledge and I have not had sufficient time to sit down and discuss all of this, but he did send it to me, right before this meeting, and that's not unusual. So we'll talk.
How much time do you need? 1 week?
3 weeks, if you would give us 3 weeks, because what that will do is give us sufficient time to be able to walk through this, but also to be able to walk through the items that we need to walk through with the companion item. So it'll allow us to be able to interface with the courts, to be able to talk to our staff about the changes that we have here, which we think will be okay, but we want to know, because this will affect everything that we do in every way that we operate on a number of different levels. So it's not just one department. We've already spent a lot of man hours putting in time to research this, and we don't want to blow that by just giving us 1 hour to make a decision. So we're asking for 3 weeks, just like Mr. Roberts asked for.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
recommend we let it over for 1 week. They can go to Washington, they can fly to Washington and back. And that, I recommend we lay it over for 1 week, and we come back and and let the two attorneys get together.
Can we meet in the middle with two?
Yeah,
They
2
want
weeks.
3, we would
Would that
want
work?
1. Can we meet in the middle with 2? Ms. Richardson, it's a big enough issue for us not to rush. And we want to get it right. I know you've been the champion for this particular item, so we want to take the time, dot our i's, cross the t's. I think 2 weeks would not be unreasonable.
Sounds like a
I'm
plan.
gonna be out next week myself, so I really would rather be here.
All right, well, if you're not gonna be here, then I said 2 weeks.
Okay. All right,
2 weeks.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
President, I have one
Mr.
question
Daves?
for Mr. Arledge. So the forms would say ethnicity, and then there would have to be some choices. Or is it a blank that you fill in? Would we use the federal government's 5 identifiers, or would we just have a blank where someone could write in whatever they wanted to write in? What's your thinking on that?
It really depend on the form, which is going to be a case-by-case basis. I mean, I would imagine that whatever's under there now, you got the overall category race, and then pick a box, whatever you're going to put under there. So race is being changed to ethnicity. I don't know if the ordinance doesn't change anything below that, the sub-choices.
Well, that's just something for y'all to work out, how you're going to handle that, because I think Mr. Richardson, I certainly don't want to speak for him, but I think one of the things he's getting at is so there aren't 2 choices, black, white, and that it kind of reflects the heritage, for lack of a better word, of the individual. But that's something y'all can work out.
And also that would only be on forms that we would not be turning in
Correct.
to the county, state, or federal government. So essentially, the forms we're gonna produce here in the city, correct?
Yes, sir.
And, Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
last week, some of the forms that we looked at, specifically from Parks and Rec, did break it down, so we already have those in the system.
Yeah, the senior centers
Yeah.
had that
Right.
one. Correct.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I think Mr. Aldridge is dead on the money. We're exchanging
Got 2 weeks.
race with ethnicity, but the categories will remain the same. Remain the same. You can add some more to it if you want to. You can add Caucasian. You can add whatever else you want to. Let them pick whatever they want to pick. But it has nothing to do with the race. You can't change race. Races, we all comfortable with that. We're born with that. But we can leave every one of those choices right there.
Click on.
Sounds good. Madam City Clerk?
57016, ordinance to establish procedures and policies for the vacation or closure of any street, alley, or dedicated public right-of-way.
Okay, Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I've spoke with Mr. Richardson about this, and this, I think the intention was to send this to the Public Safety Committee, but the Public Safety Committee's meeting on July 14th on another matter. So I think we probably need to hold this over for a month, 6 weeks, in order to give the Public Safety Committee a meeting. It's not a pressing issue.
Right. I don't disagree, Mr. Davis.
Let's say 6 weeks.
For the committee to meet.
No,
Uh-uh.
for the
Come back to the
ordinance to
council.
come
Oh, I
back,
see.
so the committee would have,
In between them?
yeah, right.
Okay. If I could comment.
Ms.
Um,
Rich?
This ordinance would never permit any kind of safety gate closure, which I'm a big advocate of. And we had a committee meeting, it was quite a while ago, when this topic came up about neighborhoods wanting some kind of controlled access so that they didn't have the cut-through traffic. And one of the comments, and I forget which council person made it, and I concurred, that if we could come up with a template of certain conditions that needed to be met, then people could apply. So I'm hoping that that could be added as a tool coming through. It would not be a vacation, it would not be a closure, although your closure language talks about the city controlling that, and that's why this would be something that the city would also control as well. So I'm not a member of Public Safety Committee, but I'll be there to try to lobby for that type of closure in our city as a tool throughout our city, not just, but there are certain things that, like the volume of cars or just, it's really volume more than speeding, because a lot of neighborhoods already have traffic calming devices that are no longer stopping the cut-through traffic. They did for a little bit, but, and the city's not doing that anymore anyway, so it's not an option. But again, I just want to put that out there, because I really do have some neighborhoods that need to control some of the egress and ingress going through their neighborhoods from a quality of life standpoint, so.
Mr. President, thank you. I think it'd probably be a good idea to set out the predicate for the introduction of this ordinance. We have had a number of instances, not a whole bunch, but several, where residents living in neighborhoods sought to close a street that provided access into the neighborhood. And there are competing interests here. These streets are in all cases maintained by the city of Mobile, by the taxpayers, all 200,000 of the taxpayers. And some of them were actually paid, installation was paid for by the taxpayers. And so you can make the argument that that the taxpayers are paying to maintain them. The taxpayers, all 200,000 of them, ought to be able to use the street. And closing a street does inconvenience some of these people who are paying to maintain the street. On the other hand, we have neighborhoods throughout the city, not just in District 6, but neighborhoods throughout the city where there's a lot of cut-through traffic. The cut-through traffic, generally those folks are speeding, they're ignoring stop signs, they are endangering the residents, particularly the kids in the streets, and there is some evidence that that cut-through traffic leads to increased crime in the neighborhood. These interests have to be balanced. Mr. Richardson and I, in conjunction with Mr. Arledge and really Mr. Rossler, had worked on an initial draft of this, came up with this. It's certainly my intention always to have it go to a committee where there could be a full discussion of its merits, where people could bring forward ideas on how to change it, amend it, alter it, so it's more effective and more perfectly balances these various interests. So I look forward to the committee meeting. I certainly am open to comments and suggestions on how the ordinance might be improved, or whether we really even need an ordinance. I brought it forward as a discussion point and look forward to having that discussion. Thank you.
Mr. President. Okay. Thank you very much. I know this is not a Public Safety Committee meeting on this ordinance closing street closures, but I would imagine that, first of all, a group or an individual who would like to see the street closed would have to submit to us a request. And in that request, they're going to state their purpose, why it is that they want this particular street closed. And that's going to shed a whole lot of light on what's going to happen after that. Because I foresee, first of all, that request being submitted to the traffic engineer, who would go in there and do a professional traffic study and tell us what they found, and in light of the request of the applicants, tell us what they believe the fix is. I don't think we need to come up and say, we need this, we don't know what we need until we get the ordinance before us, and it's a lot of options. For instance, on one of my streets near Murphy High School, they came down to say we want our street closed. And I told them up front that I'm not an advocate for closing streets. Can there be another? No, it can't be no other option. I said, what time are you having these problems? When school, from 7:30 to 3:30, what if we make it one way? Where they can't come down, they can't, the one way would be taking them away from Murphy High School, we'd be sending them toward Airport Boulevard, one way. And we put a blanket light up there, letting everybody know that you can't come down the street during these hours. They said, we believe that'll work. That been probably 5 years ago, and it's still working. I haven't heard another word out of them. They wanted a gate. They wanted a big gate up there. The reason I say that is, if this is a public street, meaning it means that it belongs to the taxpayers, the citizens. That's who the street belongs to. So for the citizens to say, we're going to take it from y'all and just give it to the folks that's living on it, and you who's paying for the upkeep, you can't even go down the street. It's going to have to be, the traffic engineer going to have to bring me some serious information back for me to vote on that. Some serious information in light of the number of options we can use to get to the same results. And the last thing, Mr. President, I'll just state up front so everybody would know. I don't believe in the term, I don't believe in accusing people of cutting through. I live on the street right at Mobile Infirmary, in that neighborhood. When you leave Mobile Infirmary, the first street, okay, for the people that's trying to get to Tobinville, they would have to go to Spring Hill Avenue all the way up to Stand Road and go home. Or they can come through our street, come through that neighborhood and get on Stand Road and go. They can save themselves probably more than 5 minutes if they go through. Wherever I'm going, it's up to me to plot my route. And the folks who live on that street can accuse me of cutting through whatever street I go down. There you go again, coming down our street. He's cutting through. Then I moved over. I'm trying to get to the airport. Whatever street I go through, the citizens on that street can come out and accuse me of cutting through. You cut through what's not yours. If I cut across your yard to get home, I'm cutting through. Because I don't own your yard. It's privately owned. I don't want nobody cutting through my yard trying to get home. Go through your own yard. That's cutting through. I can't cut through what I own. I can't cut through my yard to get home. It's my yard. And I have a right to go down any route I want to go to get to where I want to go. You could, folks living here can't tell me how to get there. That you, if you come down my street, you cut through. I go down any street I want to go down. Whenever I get ready to go down that street, I'm not cutting through nothing. I'm going where I want to go, and I'm picking the route I believe is best for me to go at that particular time. So, just won't, and we're not at no committee. All this cutting through. These are folk who want this traffic on that street, and they're accusing the other folk who coming down there as cutting through. They just going where they want to go, and they chose that street to go down. They could have chosen another one. Thank you, Mr. President.
Forward to the committee discussion. In the nearly 70 years that I've been here, I have not been a very big proponent of this particular action. I'm looking forward to see what the final recommendations will be, because I generally agree that if the public pays for the street, they ought to have the ability to access it. And if we stop one cut-through per se, if you stop it in one area, it's not as if we're going to get rid of the traffic. The traffic's going to go somewhere else and create a problem in the very next neighborhood. It's not like we're going to lessen the number of cars. By this action, we're going to take 20% of the vehicles off Mobile streets. That's not going to happen. And we're going to go down this road, and I hope that the level is so stringent that it's not something that we get an avalanche of requests for. We'll go down this road where you'll have the haves and the have-nots. The haves can have it, the have-nots can't. And then the very first time the road starts getting in raggedy condition, they're going to want all of us to come in and fix essentially a private road. I have a big issue with that. Now, if somebody would come down and say 100% of us are willing to block this street off and 100% of us are to pay for the maintenance of the road, I would vote for that today.
And the street lights too.
And if they would come down and say, look, we are so concerned about all of these various issues that we're willing to pay for the upkeep, the city won't even have to look back at this road. You would have my 100% support. I guarantee you nobody's going to say that, because you're going to want your cake and you're going to eat it too. And I won't mind. I may want to take the scenic route home. As heavy as things are right now, I may not want to rush home. I might want to drive out to the west, over into Mr. Williams' district, over in Mr. Small's district. And just as long as I'm obeying the speed limits, as long as I'm not littering, what difference would it make? People, I live on a cul-de-sac. Really and truthfully, if you don't have houses in that cul-de-sac, I wonder, what are you even in there for? I have traffic there all the time. I wouldn't say one word to those persons, because when it's time for the street to get resurfaced, all of our nickels and dimes and pennies go into it. So this is an important discussion. I look forward to it, because I will have plenty to say relative to the perspective of the citizens that I represent. There are streets now in my district that have these unnatural encumbrances dead in the middle of the street, and the predicate of it was race. I wish we could. Ethnicity. No, it was race. They weren't thinking about ethnicity then. It was pure race. Yes, ma'am. I could drive you through some areas. I'm not trying to single anybody out, but there's some areas now where they've got the street strictly blocked off, and one side had the right to be over here, and the other side could not. It wouldn't bother me at all if we took all of that up. It's a public street. And so I look forward to the discussion. I have some serious opinions about it, and I appreciate Mr. Davis and Mr. Richardson for charging the way on this, on leading the discussion.
Can I comment just one last time?
Sure.
Because some of us are very passionate about certain things, and this is really a passion I have because of the growth in West Mobile and all of the corridors that were put in place and the traffic signals. And a cut-through to a neighborhood does devalue a neighborhood, and our jobs is to keep value and stability in neighborhoods. Our residents are our number one asset, and their quality of life is predicated on their safety. And so investments, which usually your home is your number one investment. So I understand what you're saying, and I don't know about past history of why streets were blocked off or sent people in a different direction. We've moved on since then. But again, I've been in a neighborhood for 40 years and watched the change of character. And until people who came back to invest in there as adults told me the change of character was so negative that they are sorry they invested, it tells you a lot about a future of a neighborhood. And our jobs is to make sure those futures are bright, not negative. So anything that the city can do, and I hope that we are able to craft something that is amenable to this council, because it truly is an issue when neighborhoods decline. And if you look at east of 65, we're spending a lot of our resources trying to reinvigorate those neighborhoods by getting rid of the blight. Maybe causes of the blight was traffic, and if we have a way to set that off now and to prevent it from happening, we should do everything in our power, or we're just doing the same exact template. The other thing is there's all kinds of documents on what makes a safe neighborhood, and I'll be happy to share all that research and send it prior to the meeting as well.
Sounds good. Ms. Richardson, the only question I'd have for you is, once you, as you would frame it, cut through traffic in that neighborhood, where do you propose the cut through traffic's going?
I'm hoping that it stays on the widened corridors, and our streets are labeled residential, they're labeled industrial. They have different capacities, and once you tip the capacity of a residential street, it becomes negative. And when you have widened corridors that they could go down, but they're cutting off 5 traffic signals, they're doing it strictly to get from point A to point B, and the neighborhood is not the point, and the neighborhood would always be open. Anyone could come through the neighborhood. It's not being closed off. It's just not a pathway to bring in a different characteristic to the road. Because when you change that characteristic, people do not invest. And that is a real poor kind of future for a neighborhood. And I'm seeing it out west, and I'd like to help residents, and not just in the district that I represent, because I think there are other neighborhoods, I imagine, that also, because of when you look at a map, and they even have that wave today that guides people through neighborhoods. Some cities fight that and ask people not to use that. But bottom line is, we have our work cut out for us, but
Yes,
we
we
have
do.
to have the attitude that it's not being done to keep out any citizen because of their race, ethnicity, religion. It has to do with the quality of life and the resources that a residential street is supposed to bring to a citizen. It's that simple. It's not complex. It's not rocket science. So,
I don't disagree with it. It's very simple. The public put a road down, and the public ought to be able to ride down it. It's
Right.
not rocket science.
right. Anyone can come through a neighborhood if you close off an entrance. We used to have a code that said more than 40 homes required a double entrance. And this council actually voted that away. So it's no longer something for developing neighborhoods, which will really be good for the future. But it was the standard from 1956 until this council recently got rid of that fire standard for developers.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson.
in District 1, streets running north and south. I don't have a corridor. That's out west, where you have all of those wide streets out there. And now you have so much traffic that you're complaining about it. The MPO spent millions, millions, and millions of dollars out west widening streets, where they refuse to spend a dime east of I-65. So you have successfully maneuvered the traffic out there. Now we want to close the street, put up gates, just do something. We don't, going north and south, I don't have one. But in east to west, I have Airport, I have Dolphin, I have Spring Hill. Those are my options. Going north and south, you're up the creek. So, and we're still widening. We're not through now. You know, we're on McGregor, and Gina has a street that's widening. I said, we're still widening. The more you widen, the more you're inviting traffic to come that way. If you want less traffic, help me to get some of that money east of I-65 to start widening some streets down here. It'll take some of that traffic off your street. The more people are not stupid. If I got a choice to go down a 4-lane street or a 2-lane street, I'm going down 4-lane street. And if I've gone further enough down the 4-lane street, I'm going to turn and go on the 2-lane street, whether you live on it or not. That's what I'm going to do. And I don't care whatever people are going to do that. No matter what we do, they're going to take that 4-lane as far as they can go, and then they're going to turn on a 2-lane street. If it happens to be my street, it's just my street. I can call it anything I want to call it, but they're going to turn on that street if that's what they want to do. But if we really want to make an impact, then spend some of the MPO money east of I-65, widen some of those streets, and watch the traffic shift on you. Thank you.
It appears we will have a robust committee meeting, and I look forward to it. This is a great discussion. Look forward to getting public feedback. Madam City Clerk.
87017, ordinance deeming property at 720 Museum Drive not now needed for public or municipal purposes, and authorizing a lease between City of Mobile and St. Augustine for parking area. Consent resolutions held over. 08429, approved purchase order to Atlantic Video Corporation for 18 mobile cart-mounted conference systems for remote testimony, $31,045.50. Resolutions held over. 01434, authorized intergovernmental agreement with Mobile County Commission for resurfacing, restoration, and rehabilitation of Solly Road from 3 Notch Corner Road northward to Cottage Hill Road. 084.
Hold on that one. So what is the restoration?
What's the restoration? Restoration.
Resurfacing, isn't it?
Part of it's in the city limits, and part of it's in the county.
Most of it's in the county.
Half of it's in the county, and the county has just reached out to us, and rather than doing a fragmented project, they chose to do the whole thing. They're doing it themselves.
But you're not widening anything. Okay. Okay.
You could use widening.
08435, approved purchase order to Locution Systems for annual software license and maintenance agreement, Prime Alert dispatch mapping software. 08436, approved purchase order to Toomey Equipment for a tractor for the Azalea City Golf Course. 08437, approved purchase order to NEC Corporation of America for annual maintenance of fingerprint ID system. 08438, approved purchase order to Emergency Equipment Professional, Inc. to replace pump in fire pumper truck. 08439, approved item-based bid for electrical and traffic supplies. 08440, approved purchase order to CDW Government LLC for a video recording server with accelerated storage card. 21441, authorized contract with Dell Consulting for Spanish Plaza lighting upgrades. 21442, authorized contract with James H. Adams and Son Construction Company for the Cottage Hill Road culvert repairs at Milkhouse Creek. 25443, grant easement to Alabama Power Company to replace primary conductors from Claiborne West to Lawrence and north to Islava Street, Mobile Civic Center. 35444, authorize a lease with the Distinguished Young Women for the Quigley House on Government Street. 60445, approve settlement agreement and release of claims, Kenneth Guyton. CIP resolutions being introduced. 21448, authorized contract with C. Thornton for 2020 CIP bridge maintenance and repairs in districts 1 through 7, $977,554.50. 21449, authorized contract with Geotechnical Engineering Testing, Inc. to perform testing services for citywide resurfacing in districts 1 through 7, $76,000. 21450, authorized contract with Mobile Asphalt Company for the 2020 CIP citywide resurfacing in districts 1 through 7, $5,141,916.90.
Mr. President,
Mr. Williams?
there were some emails that went around this past week after the agenda was released. Mr. Richardson questioning a woman-owned business. Miss
Kid.
Archanique did not know or appeared not to know if they were on our list, if we had vetted them, made a comment that they were on the Moss list, which left some question. I happen to know the company. I do know that they went through an extensive process with the city to make sure that they were that they had met every single qualification. And here is the first time they show up. We didn't know, and I just want to make sure that Mr. Richardson and everybody is aware that this woman-owned business has been vetted and is legit and is on our list.
You don't have a volume in the volume.
It's on, I just,
I have a question on this, the Mobile Asphalt. In the 93 pages, does that list the different streets that are on the contract?
yeah, then we can
Oh,
come
I'm
right
sorry, I
back
thought
to
she
you,
was
Ms.
done. I was busy
No,
looking.
I don't think she started yet.
I apologize.
It wasn't a question as to whether they were on our list. They are on our list as a woman-owned business. It was a question as to if they had been certified. They have not gone through a certification process. The question was, when they dropped the back off, they didn't include the application. We asked for the application.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kidd, but what you're saying is too important for me to be, come on down a little bit, because I'm hearing every other syllable.
There wasn't a question about them being on our list. They are on our list, and they have been on our list. The question was if they had been vetted. I have not received a certification from any of the entities. I asked for ALDOT certification or for them to go through the Wave Transit System. I haven't received a certification.
Okay, so when you say you asked, what does that mean? Did you inform the owner of this particular corporation that there was a process, so, and is it just that they did not avail themselves of that, or how did that work?
So they were sent an application, they were emailed the LDOT UCP certification, of which the Wave Transit System through the City of Mobile is a certifying body. They can go through the Wave, they can go through the LDOT office out of Montgomery in order to be certified. That process is not taking place. But they are, and we do list them as a woman-owned business. They are approved to do work with us. But as a DBE, certified DBE, that has not happened yet. And we do have woman-owned businesses, we do have minority-owned businesses, but there's different processes that have to be done in order to receive a DBE status.
Mr. President, just to follow
Mr.
up.
Williams?
There was, so the comment that they've been vetted by MAWS, we don't accept MAWS. We accept WAVE, but we don't accept MAWS. Is that-
LDOT or their UCP members. Of which the Wave Transit System, the Port Authority, there are several, Huntsville, Birmingham airports, there are a number of them.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Well, I'm not through, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Dr.
Mr. Wesh and the mayor, we went through some extensive discussions with this company that had been turned back a couple of times. Is it possible to have Ricardo get in touch with their attorney? I can't remember Tripp's last name right now, but, and let's outline this so that there's not a difficulty for them in the future. In my opinion, they've gone through the process, and I'll talk to them some more, but I'd appreciate it if Ricardo would do that. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kidd. Thank you, Archie. Appreciate it.
Mr. President,
But before you leave, I just want to make certain of something. So, the entity before us that we're discussing, they have interfaced with you already,
Yes,
and you've already told them what the standard procedure is relative to being a DBE.
I tell everyone. And again, we do allow, in the past, you can look at your forms that I send you and the information that I send you on those companies. Whenever a contract is put before you that's over $250,000, you will see some that have a DBE designation. You will see some that have a WBE designation. You will see that some have a WBC designation, which means WBC means certified. You'll see some that says MBC, which means certified as a minority-owned business. This one is designated as a woman-owned business because I haven't received a certification.
And was it that they refused to go through that process?
No, I'm not saying they haven't refused. I haven't received it.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gregory?
just so that we're all clear, do we do business with companies that don't have the specific certification,
Yes.
but we know that they are a women-owned business, minority-owned business, without the certification? And we do business with them?
Yes. And we have done business with them in the past.
Well, in light of that, what is the value in following the procedure?
The value in following the DBE certification procedure is because you have gone through a federal process of which we have to use that process with our Department of Transportation grants. Any funding we receive from them, I try to make sure that we follow their DBE guidelines because they do set forth in those grants. But there is a process that you have to go through with them, and it has to be certified by a certain person or a certain organization. Federal level.
Mr.
Ms.
President,
Richardson and, okay,
Mr. President, we have,
Come back.
this is one of the largest contracts we're going to have this year. I doubt if we have one larger than $5 million. I believe for us to be assured that the money is being spent in a way that we have voted for it to go, I believe all DBEs ought to be certified. I think they all I don't even think they ought to be put on the agenda. If they're not certified, I don't even think they ought to appear on our agenda. That ought to be enough for them not to be on our agenda. I think they all ought to be certified. if they can't be certified, then I think we need to move on to who can be certified.
So at this point, with where we are with the program, if we did that, that would take a large number of our minority businesses, women-owned businesses out of the process, because they have to have at least 3 years before they can submit an application to DOT. That's the reason we have been allowing some of the MBEs and WBEs to continue to do work, because we have to build our capacity. But if they have had those 3 years, I do ask that they get the ALDOT or the UCP certification.
Again, it's mostly, we as a city and municipality are trying to allow them to get in and get those 3 years' experience and grow their legs. For federal grants, they require them to be certified, and when they do work at that we're doing partnering with federal dollars, they need to have the certification. So it would cut a lot of people who are trying to get started out of the program.
I just heard about the 3 years.
Out of just city.
I'm just hearing that about the 3 years.
And this is the companion item I was referencing, because the ambiguity of the current ordinance, that's what we're looking at updating, is getting more eligible businesses in that should be.
But I guess your point is, the company we're referencing now is not in that position. They've got the 3-year track record. They can, easily fill this paperwork out and get it back to you.
Yes, as far as I know.
Well, then let's work toward doing that. Mr. Richardson, was you finished?
Yeah, I'm through.
Mr. Williams?
I think it's, what was said. I'm sorry. I think what was said by Colonel Delap clarifies some things. And that is that this is our CIP dollars. This is not a state or federal program where those certifications are required. And we certainly can't change the rules in midstream. That all of a sudden we have a woman-owned business, and well, sorry, that's not going to do it, because we think it ought to be a DBE. I think we're doing a great job with regard to DBE, and we're doing so because of efforts like Mr. Richardson and all that have followed him, and all the work's been done since Ms. Kidd came here. And that started with Colby Cooper, if everybody remembers. One request, one meeting, and they developed this department. And so we just got to be careful how many fingers we put into the pie.
And of note, I think if I'm not mistaken, on that particular contract, it's 31% is going to be either minority or woman-owned, or so it's a much higher percentage that contractor's using, which is really good. I mean, anything above 20, you're doing very good. So they're 31% in this $5 million contract, which is a good news story, I think.
This is going to lay over, isn't it?
So we got, this is the first read, right?
Right.
Between now and next week, I guess Mr. Williams made a request for Mr. Woods to contact their attorney relative to the paperwork. Is that the direction we're going in, Mr. Mayor? And if you could keep us apprised of that, it would be helpful.
I just want them to know where they stand in the process and what we expect them in the future, that this contract is not affected by that, but that we just, so that everything's up front. Maybe we let some of these other DBs and women-owned businesses know that as well, where they're in the process, how much time they have left before we'll expect them to be certified. And I think that's
all in your.
Yep, thank you.
Madam City Clerk.
Resolutions being introduced, 01451, authorized baseline services agreement with Downtown Mobile District Management Corporation. 01452, authorized agreement with ALDOT.
I want to go back to that item. I have several complaints. And I'm just joking. Elizabeth, great job. Yes, ma'am.
Well.
01452, authorized agreement with ALDOT for the installation of LED street lights along state routes within the city limits. 0845.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gregory?
on this one with ALDOT, I think this is great, and I'm looking forward to it. I had been in contact with Ms. White about some lights that are out now and who's responsible for it. So we want to make sure that as we go forward, since this can take 18 months, if there are street lights out now that are owned by Alabama Power, they need to be replaced, because you can't leave all of these bulbs, leave all of these light bulbs dark and it take 18 months to get them replaced. So Alabama Power and/or the city still need to replace these bulbs while the LEDs are being installed. And I had one case in particular that we're trying to make sure that Alabama Power does replace these bulbs while we're getting these LED ones installed.
Yeah, they will. They're under contract to do that already, so they should. If they don't, please let us know.
Well, we've got one, because the gentleman had called and Alabama Power was pointing fingers, and how it
No
normally
problem.
goes.
Just send us the information. They're under contract to keep those going until they switch them.
We did, thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson?
there are a number of streetlights out in District 1 that's maintained by the city. And I was told that the cities don't have a bucket truck. And these lights been out for a sustained period of time. If you look at our ordinance every week, we are buying all kind of vehicles. You name it, we are buying. We don't, from what I understand, we don't own the first bucket truck that would allow the technician to go up there and change the light bulb.
Councilman, that's not accurate. That department does not have its own. They were renting one. We do have one in the city, so we're in the process of coordinating to make sure it's shared amongst departments currently. In a perfect world, that department would have its own, but right now we can't afford to do that. So we're going to work out a better SOP for sharing the one that we have.
My understanding was, all along, has been that if it is a wooden pole that the light is on, it's maintained by Alabama Power.
That's right.
And I have had, while Mr. Saxon was down here, and I don't think I've really had any burned out issues lately, but I would just get in touch with Alabama Power and report him to, and it'd be replaced the next day.
Right. What we're talking about is the higher ones up.
The ones on the aluminum poles.
On
No,
aluminum poles, that's right.
Or whatever they are,
That's right.
the metal
That's
poles.
right.
Yes.
And so those are maintained by the city, is my
Correct.
understanding. And so this item on LED lights, that just applies to the metal poles.
Well, that's right. This is allowing an agreement with ALDOT to allow them to do work within the city limits on those poles. So
routes.
this is just an agreement to allow them to do the work. But we got off tangent on lots of other topics here about lighting issues and concerns. But right,
They're on state routes.
that's right.
They're not just on our city streets.
Inside the
They're
city limits.
labeled.
Correct.
So am I to believe, in light of your comment, that I can expect those lights that I turned in it for District 1 that's out to be replaced in the very near future?
They will be replaced. I need to get the timeline. Correct.
But I believe they're gonna be replaced.
Yes.
But I'm talking about sometime soon. If you're saying you're gonna share the truck, you're gonna let them have a truck, I ought to expect the light to be fixed.
Right. We will prioritize the requirements for that vehicle. It's also the same one that does our tree trimming, et cetera. So we'll prioritize it and make sure we get them done.
How much the vehicle cost
How much does the vehicle cost?
to get another bucket truck?
I don't know that answer right now. I can get the number.
All right, thank you.
Madam City Clerk?
08453, approve item-based bid award for emergency equipment professionals for Red Rack gear storage components for the fire department. 08454, approve item-based bid award to decorative poles, fixtures, and globes from Southern Lighting and Traffic Systems. 08455.
Excuse me, on that one, can we just know where those decorative poles and fixtures and globes are going? Is there a location for those items? Just curious. I'm sorry.
But that's in my district.
Where is
Battery
that?
Heights.
I'm not familiar.
CIP program over in the Lion Cough area.
I see. Okay, just
Yes,
wanted to know.
the community has been working on this effort probably prior to my term on office started, and we finally committed some resources. Did you want to give them a brief overview, Ms. White? I don't mind. I want them to know.
It's not CIP though, correct?
It is CIP.
Oh, it didn't list it on ours.
Yeah, that needs to be,
I see. Got it. Okay.
Many years ago, probably 15 years ago,
right.
the age of the, Battery Heights had decorative fixtures and poles, and they were so old, they were falling over and caving in, and the circuits were just buried directly in the ground. So they had deteriorated. It was just one of those very old city systems. And at the time that it went out, there was not money to replace it, and so Alabama Power came in, placed the poles, and ran power to the front, which isn't always an option for some of the older neighborhoods where the power runs in the alleys behind the houses. So they had been having to do with that and not have those poles replaced until the CIP program afforded that money to it. So this is poles that'll match.
Very
Needs
nice.
to be there, and fixtures that'll match, and all new
Yeah.
electrical circuits.
Nice quality of life. I get it.
It is. Nice quality of life. You're going to be able to ride down every section of the street
Yes.
with the lights on that street. And what I also enjoy about this project is that they were intentional in making certain that it was representative of the entire community.
Great.
They were intentional in making certain everybody was at the table, make certain lights were placed on. I'm just very, very proud of just how intentional each and every person was to make certain this
Very
amenity is going to impact the whole neighborhood.
It just wasn't
And I
familiar.
appreciate all your help, Ms. White. Thank you. You've been a big help.
$3,000. Should it be in CIP?
Well, it's probably, I don't know, his
It's
CIP.
basically, that's kind of interesting, there was.
I think it
no
should.
dollar figure on there, and there's no reason for it not to be, it's like $4,800, $5,000 and change. And why was it in CIP, and we approved it today?
That's the way it is submitted.
This, for the purchasing side, we bid this as an item basis award, so that as we need the stuff, we can buy it. It's a fixed pricing for a year, so if you need 3 to 5, you need 105, we don't know what the dollar amount will be as far as actually purchasing.
That's for 3
That's
items.
pricing, so as her project goes along, she can order the pieces as she needs them.
That's for 3 items. Yeah. Yeah. But you don't know how many items they're going to need.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
don't be surprised if I don't cut through to see all of this. I might have to cut through that street to see what's going on. Just
Yeah, the neighbors will
let
love
me
it.
know.
Not if I stop it first. I might stop you first. Okay. Thank you. This is a great project.
08455, 456, 457, 458, 459, 460, and 461 are approving purchase orders to Sun South LLC for 4 mowers, $54,057.04. AutoNation Ford Mobile for 2 Ford pickup trucks, $56,381. Sansum Equipment Company, Inc. for Vector Sewer Cleaner Truck, $455,219.
Good gracious alive. That's a bucket truck right there.
Toomey Equipment for tractor, backhoe, front end loader, $31,779. Sun South LLC for 8 zero-turn mowers, $109,314.08. Polaris Sales, Inc. for utility vehicle, $27,071.64. And Cronus Incorporated for annual renewal of workforce telestaff and associated HR management software, $17,658.92. 09462, transfer the sum of $49,288.29 from capital account 0129 to capital account 0509 to enclose the police department motorcycle parking pad. 23463, accept deeds for the acquisition of right-of-way for the McGregor Avenue widening project from Dolphin Street to Airport Boulevard. 21 464, authorized contract with Pyrotechnico for July 4th fireworks display, $30,000.
Okay, if I could, I handed out, if it's okay, if I
Yes, ma'am.
mention, I handed out a directive that came in from the Health Department where they strongly recommend that if there's active cases of COVID-19, that we not have 4th of July fireworks celebration. And this is before us now. I hope that if this isn't approved, that we don't have any kind of liability with having to pay this company. Okay.
As I understand, I think it's a very minimal, like a couple $100 permit fee or something they had to have, so.
Okay,
it's a-
but
right
it's
now,
enough time that it could be canceled if that was the will of the council.
Minus, I think, that couple $100 permit fee.
Okay. Mayor, are you familiar with the health department? It's the state and then our local also. Yeah, they basically said that there was to be no fireworks if we have active cases. I think your emails to us tell us it's still active, so.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. Is this a new company that we have this year? Because I thought in the past we approved something a little bit less than this, in like 15,000 besides 30. I don't recall it being this high.
Oh, no, Pyrotech is a regular company.
I think we've used them.
It's the same company.
It's the same company?
Oh, yeah, same
Recall.
company.
Okay.
We can get you last year's number.
Yeah, I think it was maybe 24K last year.
Yeah, I thought it was cheaper than this. And
Oh,
when
yeah.
I saw the price, I was like, this must be a new
I mean,
company or
I'm
something.
going to take my directive from the health department for my vote, but
All right, thank you.
Call for public hearings, 41465, call for public hearing to rezone property at 1073 Bernice Hudson Drive, south side of Bernice Hudson Drive, 190 feet west of Quigley Street, from R1 and R2 to R1, District 3, scheduled July 21st. Announcements.
Any announcements from members of the council? Wait, 7 minutes, any, Mr. Mayor? Oh, cut your mic on if you don't mind.
I just want to remind you, there is a request and recommendation for an executive session at the end of the regular meeting on an important matter.
That'll be fine. Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, did you have any announcements? If not, we'll see each other at 10:30.
How about 10:35?
Mayor Stimpson.